So welcome to Challenge the Road. We're here at VVS because I want to have a discussion about GT Porsches, especially the 4-litre engine in the RS, the Speedster and all the models, and I want to go through values and what's happening. Right, so I had to write this all down because there's a lot of numbers on these cars and it's the sort of facts and figures that I look at when I'm trying to purchase them. Now the first GT3 was 996 and they've done a .1 and a .2. And they've done a GT3 RS. Now this is the interesting thing, let's just have a look at numbers. So GT3 RSs in the 996, and remember back in the day they couldn't sell these cars, 682 produced. Very rare car, holding their money now. But that was a 3.6, they had a 3.8, and we want to talk about 4-litre cars. I'm going to move on a generation to 991 because they're the ones that really interest me at the moment. Now, you had the GT3.1, GT3.2, an RS.1 and an RS.2. So now we've ended up with 4 GT3s, but they also done the Speedster and a Touring. So actually we've got 6 models. So where we've gone from 997 just being 3 GT3s, we've now got 6 models in that range. I really like the 991. We'll come back to it at the end about values and stuff, but I really like the Speedster and I really like the Touring. Now, let's look at numbers again. So 991, GT3 RS, .1, I had a .1 car, lovely car, ultraviolet. They made 4,500 of the .1, 4,500. The .2, which is this one here, this is a lovely black Weissach car. I really want to buy this car actually, but we'll come back to that at the end. The RS.2, they made 4,880. So RS cars were 9,380 in 991, 682 in 996. So you're seeing the huge volume. Now, when they made the 911R, everyone thought that was the last manual 4-litre car, and it wasn't. The Touring come out, the GT3 you could order in manual, and it sort of took the value off that. So a 911R was 136,000 plus options. Within a year, it was apparently 900,000 was the biggest someone paid for a 911R. It's a huge amount of money. Now they've dropped back down in the 400s. I love the 911R, I think it's a fantastic car, but they're about 400k. Now, where I'm getting the problem going forward is we're going to go into 992 and we're going to talk about values and how many 992s there are. So let's talk about 992 because this gets interesting again on the amount of models there are. So 992, you've got the GT3, GT3 Touring, GT3 RS, which has just come out, the Dakar. The ST is a model, but it hasn't got the 4-litre engine, but similar car. We've got a GT4 RS with the 4-litre, and we've got a 718 Spider RS. That's why I've had to write this down, because it's just getting a lot more complicated. And there's so many more versions using the 4-litre engine and a manual gearbox. So I think this is getting diluted down value-wise. I'll give you an example. I really like the look of the 992 GT3, especially the Touring. January this year, there were no GT3s under 200,000. Now there are lots, and I'm hearing a 992 GT3 recently sold for 145k. So they are dropping. And one of the reasons is there is so many of them. I don't know how many yet because they're not out of production. But this is on the back of a 0.2 GT3 coming out. So we haven't even got to the end of how many cars there's going to be. Now that may be a hybrid, maybe not, but there could be more 4-litres coming out. So this is diluting value. So if you look at my collection now, I haven't got a GT car from Porsche in the collection, but it's only because I can't go to the dealership and buy one, so I have to pay overs. I think that market's going. I think overs are going to be GT3 RS, new one, simply because they haven't made that many of them. Some of the Dakar and probably this ST, even though it hasn't got that engine, I think that is the one. But how are values for normal GT3s going to go? And I think they're all going to come down to list and maybe under. That's how I see it. The 991, I feel, is the better car. When I drove the 992 Touring, I think the ride's quite hard. I know they talk about the Vantage being hard, but I'm telling you, the GT3 Touring is no better than the Vantage. So I'm trying to come to some sort of conclusion in my head because I really love GT3 Porsches. So for me, if I was to buy one now, I maybe wouldn't. I maybe just hold a little bit longer. I would like to see the GT3 RS, especially a YSAC car, under sort of 200k. I think that's a great buy. I love the Speedster. I think that's a great car. I think this one here, the white with the black, not quite my spec. I'd probably maybe go silver wheels, but I think this is a really, really good car. But again, I think they made, is it 1948? Which is when Porsche started. I'll have to check that in there, but it's still quite a lot of cars, 1948 cars. So when, again, where's the value? The other car I think is probably the best one is the 991 GT3 Touring, because there's only 56 UK cars, which is very low. There is probably 56 GT3 992 Tourings for sale at the moment, for sale. The same number as the whole of the 991 Tourings. And actually, the Touring in the 911's much better ride, and I think would probably be the better car. I'm just trying to give you an insight into my head and how I'm thinking about them. But I feel there's going to be, you know, some really good prices on these cars. They are going to go down and they're going to bottom, and that's when I'm going to come in. I'm going to come in when they're flat. I don't think we're that far away from that, but there's still a long way to go if we keep making all these 4-litre cars, or Porsche do. GT4 RS come out 275. These are now dropping down. I think they're going to be in the 150s for a GT4 RS. Really nice car, 150,000. Would you then want a 991 or a 992? Would you just have it? If it's a Sunday car, is that enough? But I don't think anyone foresaw that drop in 100k so quick. I know that wasn't the full retail price, but they were going for a lot of overs. So quite an interesting time. I'm going to bring in some facts and figures and numbers a bit more in this video. But yeah, it's just to show that there's a huge amount of 4-litre engines. So it's definitely going to dilute the value. Still a great car to drive, but I hope that just gives you a little bit of an insight into the GT3 4-litre engine and how many there are. So I hope you really like and enjoy these videos. If you get a chance to subscribe, like, comment, really helps us grow as a channel, and I'll see you again soon.